Good evening, everybody here, and welcome to It's in the Ballot. Tonight, we have got these four candidates here who are vying to become the next mayor of Upper Hutt. But as with every one of elections come up, there's one thing stepping away, and that's your vote. Okay, this evening, and welcome to It's in the Ballot here live from Upper Hutt. And thank you for our four mayoral candidates who are here tonight to stand for mayor. We do have an apology from Keith. I'll just make sure. Keith Bennett, he has not been able to make it tonight. However, we do have all our other four candidates over here. Now, I also have Ben Wiley Van Erd, who is going to be our question person who is going to open the box, or as for those from the TV show It's in the Bag, the Tina Kabouchier position. I think there's many different, that's in the Selwyn days. In the John Hawkesby day, I think it was Hilary Timmins. Oh, well, long before I was born.
No, the case on today's lovely assistant.
So he's going to be having the fun job of asking the questions. Gee, I've done that 2 nights in a row. Okay, so first up, before we get to the candidates, let's sit down there and give you a bit of a taste of Upper Hutt.
The mayoral race for Upper Hutt. Upper Hutt is a small city situated along the banks of the Hutt River near the Rimutaka Ranges on the northern end of the city. Upper Hutt has many suburbs ranging from population numbers as low as 600 right up to about 3,500 people. Some of those suburbs include Akataura, Gloucester Park, Eldersley, Hiratonga, Mangaroa, Māori Pinehaven, Riverstone Terrace, Silverstream, Temarua, Totra Park, and Trentham. So you're wondering what is unique about Upper Hutt? Well, it has 6 train stations, 5 of them served by the Wellington Commuter Train Network. Those stations are Silverstream, Hiratonga, Trentham, Wallaceville, and Upper Hutt. And the one that serves us by the Wairarapa line up in the north is Maymorn. Upper Hutt also has the attraction HGO Extreme Aquatic Centre, which has multiple water slides that you can go down. And if you head across the railway tracks, you can head to Maidstone Park, where it has numerous flying foxes and a lot of adventure for the children out there. And now the final bit, or shall we say the most important part, the voting system. Upper Hutt City Council uses first past the post, so when it comes to this local body elections, you have 1 tick to select who you'd like to be mayor.
Okay, thank you for sitting there joining us with the our lovely video brief little bit about Upper Hutt. And as we sit there and say, we're in a first past the post area tonight, so remember to get out your ticks when it comes to voting. So with the first part of the round of tonight, we start off with opening statements. And Blair, you have the fun job of opening statements, and your microphone's on the floor down beside you. Sorry? Oh, yeah, it'll be the big camera there that Stacey's pointing at.
Hi, everybody.
Ray, can you turn up the mics on the stage? Line 5 and 6.
So can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name's Blair Griffiths. Long-time resident of Upper Hutt, nearly every day of my life. I moved away for a little while and had to play in the Wairarapa, or Hawke's Bay, sorry. My parents grew up here, lived here and taught in schools here. I run a business in Upper Hutt, I have done for 28 years. I've had my children here, and my family home is here in Whiteman's Valley. I've been on council for 9 years. I've done just about every job there is, chaired quite a few different committees over time, and currently the chair of policy. I'm also heavily involved in the local sporting arena and some of the social elements of Upper Hutt and the the Greater Wellington area as well. I chair a few different committees and groups. I'm quite happy to have served on council and continue to serve if I don't become mayor of Upper Hutt. And as mayor of Upper Hutt, I'd like to continue the great work that's been done in Upper Hutt over the last sort of 20 years. A lot of growth and a lot of change, continuing with the huge change in consultation and furthering the connection with the local people. I believe that we've done a better job in the last 3 years than we've ever done in reaching out and getting input from our community. Vote Blair. You see the signs around. It's pretty easy to remember. Thanks.
Okay, and one of the things I'd like to ask is, what's your reason for hedging your bets when it comes to standing this election, considering, you're going for both councillor and for mayor?
I don't really call it hedging my bets. I call it for people standing for mayor. I enjoy the job I do. I believe it's a valuable part of the community. I've always been quite vocal. I've always decided that you want to put your body where your mouth is. There's no point talking about it unless you're going to play the game. The mayoral stakes, I've talked about it for a long time. My children are now at an age where they don't need me at home as much. It was one of the things that stopped me from standing last time around. I believe there's a voice for change. There's definitely a lot of noise in the community, and I'm probably looking to answer that voice.
Ooh, thank you for that. Next up, we've got Wayne.
Evening, everybody. Wayne Guppy. I'm the incumbent mayor, and a couple of reasons why I wish to continue to serve the community as mayor of Upper Hutt. Obviously, there's a lot of change that's about to take place in local government in the next 3 years. Certainly, with the move of this government, they're looking for some major changes in local government. And that's obviously with the future of local government, the Three Waters reform, and obviously the RMA reforms. And that will need real leadership within our community to have a voice, not just locally or regionally, but nationally. Because if we will not have seen as much change since '89 when they amalgamated a lot of the councils. So it's very important that our community has a decisive and strong leader working through that. The other point I want to make clear is that over the last 3 years during the COVID pandemic, there's been a lot of communities have suffered badly. Our community has suffered, but we have continued to have investment. And if you look around what's happened in Upper Hutt, there has been a large amount of confidence and investment. And many of those, we need to make sure as a community that we gain maximum benefit out of those major investments that have taken place within our city. And that will take we'll continue to have to make some decisive and tough decisions, but it's a time for us as a community to make sure that we're getting maximum benefit out of those major investments.
So I want to ask, you've gone the other way, all or nothing. I gather that's the term of the top position or nothing else. What's your reasoning for going for all or nothing again?
Well, I've done it every time I've stood.
Fair enough, fair enough. Angela, you're up next.
Kia ora tātou, ko Angela McLeod aho. Upper Hutt should be strong, resilient and vibrant and a place where families in whānau feel safe in their homes, schools, parks, workplaces and on our roads. It should be a smart city that actively supports sustainable business, good environmental outcomes and empowers youth, and with residents living in warm, healthy homes, enjoying equitable access to local nutritious food and health and wellbeing services. Upper Hutt should be a community that desires to not only be engaged in the decisions that shape our future, but to be active participants in that decision-making process. I am an experienced leader and change maker, a long-time local business owner, Maidstone Yamaha, the highest elected councillor in 2019, and in my third term as a councillor of Upper Hutt. I care. I am your voice and focus on your concerns and will engage with you on all things such as rivers and roads, businesses and schools, rural and urban, pretty much anything. It's time to ensure democracy is participatory, fair and open. It's time to celebrate our past and to look to the future. It's time for strong, collaborative and engaging leadership. There's a future to plan for. It's time for change. It's time to create the community we all want. Let's create change together. Kia ora.
And I'd like to ask you, what's your reasoning for going all or nothing this local body elections?
Because I'm incredibly serious about this role. I ran for mayor in the last election. I was the highest elected councillor. The community is asking for change and I am that change. I'm not mucking around with this.
Okay, thank you for that. And now let's go for Helen.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Helen Swales. I'm a fourth term city councillor and for the last 3 years I've had the privilege of being your deputy mayor. Being the deputy mayor has allowed me or afforded me the ability to actually not only sit at our local council table, but also the regional committees where the mayor, the incumbent mayor, has allowed me to share and amplify the voice of Upper Hutt in those spaces and make sure that we're recognised and our voice is heard. So we chose, when I came back from my big OE, and I brought my souvenir back with me, which was a Yorkshireman, so please don't hold that against me. But we chose to live in Upper Hutt. And the reason why we did is because what it offered us as a young married couple to come here and bring our family. So the byline is life, live it, work here is actually something that we wanted. We knew that Wellington was only a doorstep away. It gave us the opportunity to continue our career options, but it also afforded us a lifestyle, which Upper Hutt does, and we are keeping it for the families. The other thing is that when I become the mayor, should you tick my box and say that it's my voice that you would like me to represent, I have an understanding of what it is to be a leader. I work as one of my day jobs looking after 235 businesses on Jackson Street, and we all know how vibrant that place is. And I've done that for 9 years and I was shoulder tapped to do that. So I understand going through COVID and what it means and how to engage and drive yourself through those pivoting times with all the legislation and the compliance that this government has put on us. I understand that with the three waters, the reimagining local government and the RMA that's coming on us, that engagement and bringing the community along with us is really, really important. We don't do that well, but under my leadership, I will make sure that we have more town hall meetings like this very one tonight, and that we get everyone in the community to have a say and hear their voice. I take that on board, and for the 4 terms that I've been there, we haven't actually had that really good engagement. We started at our last LTP where we went out and we brought the high school students into our chambers to talk about the 4 big projects. And since then, the Mayor and myself have actually continued working with the youth of today by inviting them into our chambers. So I bring really good leadership. I chair a number of non-government and government chairs that I do. I chair the Women's Empowerment Principles, which is the civil society. I also chair the Diversity and Inclusion for the New Zealand Defence Force. So I've also been put up as a nomination as a chair for somebody, and I was really proud to actually receive that nomination, and I've only just heard it in the last couple of days. The other thing is, a leadership knows that you're only as strong as your weakest link. So for me, it's important that the leader has empathy and knows the skills of the 10 people around the table. And that's why I believe I know that, and I know how to pull a team together that will understand the needs of our community. Thank you. Why am I standing for both?
Yes.
I just thought I'd preempt that.
Yeah.
I was going to go all for one, but then a number of people in the community said that your voice is pretty important around the council table. And the reason being is that my focus is infrastructure and all the business as usual that the community expect us to do. We do that properly first, and then we look at the sexy stuff. Thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, are we taking a technical break or we're switching over? No, we can continue going over. Now, I was meant to do, no, we're taking a break? Okay, we're going to take a break and we'll be back in a couple of minutes' time to sit there and just fix up a few glitches. Thanks for that. Okay, and now here's the questions we think you'll be asking after watching today's show. Actually, that helps when my tablet sits down there and leaves half the questions where I can't change them. Okay, question number 1. Will Wayne Guppy be able to overtake Tim Chabot as Aotearoa New Zealand's longest serving mayor? Number 2, oh God, I put these in the worst positions to see this. Will the Upper Hutt mayor change be in the female hands for the first time? And second time? Has there been a female mayor? Oh, I'm guilty for that. I didn't do good enough research. I've always got told Wayne was number 2. So, yeah. Yeah, and yes, actually, yes, in my lifetime, that is completely true. And which one of these mayoral candidates will be hedging their bets? Well, I think we've already got those answers. So that's some of our, shall we say, questions we think you'll be asking tomorrow. Now, let's get off to the fun run of the ballot box questions. Ben, how are they looking?
Ooh, they're looking very spicy. I can't wait to open them up, and I can't wait to see some answers from our lovely candidates today.
Okay, now Blair, you get the chance to ask the, choose the first number? One to 30. Oh, we better let you know, one of the great things about the ballot boxes, I forgot to tell the rules. Gee, I'm having a bad night on the desk. So there are 30 boxes there, 28 of them are filled with questions and 2 of them are filled with booby questions known as dodge the questions or defer the questions to another candidate. If a candidate receives a dodge the question or defer the question to another candidate, that's a get out of jail free card, and the principle behind that is they have that at the end of the show, because if they do not have it, might be saying they're not politically accountable, as my good friend Bruce Sidney Flavin used to sit there and say. So those are our 2 booby questions. So let's kick off with Blair. What's the first box number do you fancy on picking?
All right, your question. What are your thoughts on the public libraries in Upper Hutt, and do you have any plans around them?
You'll need your mic. Otherwise, we're not going to hear you at home.
Well, public libraries have always been in Upper Hutt, and I firmly believe that we need libraries. I mean, they're morphing, they're adapting, they're changing. I mean, at the moment, they're the the council chambers. We're having all our meetings there. They house so many different people in our community. I think there's a yoga class. Is that right, Ros? You can run your yoga there still? Yep. So our library is here to stay. We've just redone the roof in my time on, seismic strengthening, didn't we, in the time that I've been on council. We've also got the Pinehaven Library, which is far enough away to be a requirement that we do need to keep in Upper Hutt. Admittedly, they're all at a cost. They all cost our ratepayers money, and they're something we value and that we will keep paying for. We also got the mobile library buses now on the roads. Electric one, so I don't know if it's the first one in New Zealand, but I'd like to hope we are. And yeah, my plans are really to make sure that we keep funding them, keep them going, maybe, keep with the adaptation and keep the growth of the library with the digital era, but also keeping those books there. I know my kids love books. So thank you.
Okay, next up, Wayne.
All right, so your question. How will you personally role model reducing climate change, such as cycling to work every day or eating a plant-based diet? Oh, sorry, I read 1, it should be 10. Ignore that.
Oh, so just hit 10 on there.
All right. The question that I asked, not the question that I read. I'll ask it again. How will you personally role model reducing climate change, such as cycling to work every day or eating a plant-based diet?
Well, we all have a role to play, and it's an individual. I mean, there's no question about that, individual choices. But from the point of view of are you talking me personally or as a community?
I think that's a question for you personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, the point is that we all have a role to play, and each of those, if you're talking about cycling, I mean, I'm not sure, quite often I spend a lot of time having to go into Wellington, so I wouldn't be cycling into Wellington, but I certainly cycle around on the weekends, so, and walk and go to the gym, and certainly our diets are different to what they were 30 years ago. Certainly the way, when I was a kid, they're far different to our diets now. But certainly from the point of view of we all have an individual responsibility when it comes to issues such as climate change. And I think that's one of the issues for our community, because talking to our community, many people are saying, what can I do? And as part of our role as council is to make sure that we help make it easier for people to understand what they can do as individuals.
Okay, Helen. No, not Helen. It's Angela on my order list. Sorry. It's a bit weird when Keith pulled out. It's throwing the ordered thing on my sheet a bit out of whack. So I've got a whole heap of crosses in the middle of it. So it does feel like we're going through the same order, but that's not the intention. So what's box number?
18.
What? Ray? Oh, well, I don't know. Let's choose another box, and we'll probably find 2 locked in another one at a different stage.
17.
Okay, question for you. How respectful is the relationship between central government and Upper Hutt City Council?
Well, a rather large hole in the ground, but however, I think from a respect point of view, at the moment with the Three Waters discussion, there might not be so much respect between each of us. I know that we do have a lot to do with our minister. I think as mayor, I have a really good relationship. I've worked in Parliament, so I have a really good relationship with the different ministers. In my current role at the Rural Women New Zealand, I'm the Government Relations Manager, and so I can see potential for us to actually have a really stunning relationship, resilient to the different, the changes in politics and politicians. And yeah, there's some work to be done. We have a good relationship, but there is work to be done, and I'm prepared to do that. Kia ora.
Okay, Helen. So 28.
And your question. What is your vision for improving recycling in Upper Hutt?
Wow. Recycling, I'm all about closing the loop and circular economy. So I'm actually quite pleased that I've got this question.
Just a bit closer.
Sorry?
Just a bit
Oh,
closer.
sorry.
So those at home can hear it.
Sorry. I think this is a really important question for us in Upper Hutt. I'm about closing the loop, and I'm about circular economies, and I'm about good product stewardship. And I'm about the 5 Rs. So for me, a lot of infrastructure here in Upper Hutt needs to be put into place. And when I talk about infrastructure, I talk about we redesign, we rethink, we reuse, we refuse, we repurpose. All of those things need to come into play. But in order for us to do that, we need to have the infrastructure that supports that, right? We have central government, which is coming down on us, saying that there are some programs that they're looking at us doing. So already they've got rid of the single-use plastic bags. We know that there are some more moves afoot later this year, and then again in 2023. I think for us as a city, the biggest waste that we have is organic and food, and it's not something that we collect. So we as a community need to start actually looking at that and start looking at how do we use that? How do we actually empower the people in our community, bottom down, coming to top down, and that we meet in the middle and that we empower our community to do those things until we're able to put the infrastructure there. I don't think we should be in a hurry to do it, especially when central government are looking at these changes that are coming in. I think we should just look at what we can do, investigate, make sure that the infrastructure is there, that when we want to, repurpose it. But we also need to be talking to the businesses that come here and say, are you able to? Because through our sustainability strategy or funding that we put out in the LTP, we were able to support a number of businesses that actually are on the journey of becoming green. So I'm really excited that we as a council actually do that, and we need to continue doing that. But I think the infrastructure has got to be there for us to repurpose and redesign. And the businesses themselves around product stewardship is a really important thing that we need to push. Thank you.
And just for those at home, that was Helen, not Angela. Eddie has put the wrong one. We have made sure he's going to be putting the right name on the stream later on.
Yeah, because I want the vote.
Yes. This is what happens when you got someone remotely putting your names across the screen, because the team is not just based in the 5018 postcode as we are here tonight. We've also got, Eddie's coming doing his bit from the North Shore up in Auckland. We now will be going for, I'm skipping round 3 because it's going to put you guys in the same order again. So we're going to go for the round 4 version of order, and it starts with Angela.
22.
Your question is, do you think climate change should be the #1 concern at the ballot box?
I'm not here to ask the voters to consider what they think should be #1 in the ballot box. Personally, if I'm voting, that is one of the considerations I make. However, I'm not going to ask the voters, it's up to them to choose what the big issues for them are. Climate change is a big issue for New Zealand, Upper Hutt, and the world. However, it's not up to me to choose what they think the big issues are.
Okay, Blair.
Number 7, please.
Here we go. All right, this is a long one, so buckle in. COVID has shown us that we need a bit more space to move around to not catch contagious diseases. At the moment, those in cars have all the space and pedestrians are squashed onto narrow pavements. What will you do to make more space for those of us walking around in the city, such as one-way streets, change on street parking to pavement, etc.?
That was written by my friend who's a doctor, Dr. Marion Layton.
Thank you, Doctor. I don't really see that in Upper Hutt we can make one-way walking streets. We have a large area in Upper Hutt. I think it's the largest geographical area. Is it second largest geographical area in New Zealand as a city? There's plenty of outdoor spaces for us all to go and ride our bikes, walk our dogs without dog parks. sorry. We, yeah, the main street and the shopping area around town, there's a bit of room. It's a bit busier than it's been in the last wee while, so you may have to keep your masks on at this stage. But yeah, I don't foresee Upper Hutt being able to change to wider footpaths. Maybe the bike lanes that we were talking about today might help. A few more people can get off the public transport, the trains, get on a bike and ride to Lower Hutt, maybe, certainly to Silverstream. Street parking. Yeah. I mean, your doctor did a good job writing the question, mate. I hope I've done some justice to it.
Okay, let's go for Wayne. What box number do you want to choose? The gentlemen here like to choose the lower numbers and the ladies like to choose the higher ones. I'm not sure if that is a gut feeling, but it does feel that way.
I'll monitor it as the evening goes on. All right, Wayne, what's your biggest priority for the next term, and how do you intend on delivering on that?
Well, our biggest priority obviously is to see through some of the we've got some major projects and a lot of it's infrastructure projects over the next, for the long-term plan that we signed off this year. That is really important, and it's a discipline that we need, because what we don't need is to have another lolly scramble and reappraise where we're heading and what we're doing. It's important that we look at, we're on target with them, but it's very, very important that we deliver on the long-term plan. It's also another priority will be very important for us as a region, is that we continue to have a strong voice in the Wellington region and a part of the Wellington jigsaw. That is very important, not only for the Wellington region, but also for Upper Hutt, because the cities all rely on one another, and that's a very important priority. What we do see after election, we do see cities suddenly thinking that the world begins and ends with them, and that is not good for the Wellington region and not good for Upper Hutt. So for me, they're two of the most important priorities. And the third priority would be to make sure, like I said at the start, that we have a very strong voice on these reforms. Make no mistake, amalgamation will be back on the table big time. And we as a community need to be aware of that, and we need to be ready to talk through that. But those are some of the big issues that we will need to address, and they will be priorities for me.
And actually, I do remember from back about 2015 with the Stop the Wellington Super City, I remember meeting you at Lower Hutt meeting along with Ray Wallace there. And I also was, and I still stand by it, I'm personally not for amalgamation myself, because I don't see it going to deliver the benefits that they claim that they're trying to, that it will deliver. Yeah. Helen, you're up next. What box number?
I just thought I'd throw that curveball in there.
I'm pressing 8 on the tablet. Oh.
Let me just cover up for you there.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
There we go, all fixed now. Helen, should ratepayers living in rural and residential zones be paying for upgrading your CBD?
Look, we're in a city, right? We're both urban and we're both rural. The CBD is a place where people come and, you know, we provide a lot of facilities, libraries, swimming pools, all sorts. And as ratepayers, we pay for the whole lot, whether we use them or not. So whilst we're 50-50 with urban and rural, the CBD is actually rated for all of us. It is whether we choose to or not use it is entirely up to us, but I don't see that there's any differentiation. I mean, why wouldn't a rural person want to pay for it? I'm sure that that's where they come and do their shopping, their grocery shopping, they go to the banks, even though there are limited hours. I see it as actually being, you know, part of our fabric of who we are as a city, and that we all contribute to it. So, yeah.
And while you've just got back down, you are back up again.
I'm back up again. Number 4. Let's go low.
Okay, one more for you. there is a $6.5 million $6.5 million allocated in the long-term plan for the intersection improvements at Gibbons Street, Main Street, and Ferguson Drive. Will you continue to support that project going ahead if elected, and why?
Okay, so with the landscape of what we've just agreed over the last few days, and that's looking at an integrated transport strategy, which then falls out to an integrated transport plan. This is actually part of that. We actually put this in there because what we were looking at was making the traffic movements to get from the city and from Brewtown and from the commercial development areas over to State Highway 2. So, you know, we need to look at the traffic. There are 27,000 car movements on Ferguson Drive. If we want to take those people off that and actually try and get them back onto State Highway 2, then yes, we need to look at this. But I now see this as actually part of the consultation of our next long-term plan, and it needs to be put out there for the community to tell us, is this what they still want us to spend the money on? We give them the rationale of why we put it in there, wanting it with a price tag of 6.5, but also appreciating now that with the world the way it is, inflation, costs just rising through the roof, it's probably going to be one of those projects that's going to blow out. So it needs to be consulted on, because I believe that it will become a significant cost, which means that we have to actually go out there and consult. So thank you.
Angela.
1.
Lucky number 1. Okay, Angela, do you think that the council, mayor and councillors, have enough say in the way the council is run? I think that's referring to the councillors. compared
Might
to
be
the mayor.
central government interference.
Well, I think there's two things here. So the way the council is run, as a council, we employ the chief executive, and the chief executive runs the council itself. We are leaders, that we make strategic decisions. Do I think that as the strategic decision makers we have enough say? Yes, we have the long-term plan, we have the annual plan, we have tools that we have at our disposal as councillors to, to give to the CE to then make the plans to have those work. Do I think we could do better with some of the decisions? Yes. Do I think that sometimes the staff or sometimes we don't have all the information, whether it's given to us by staff or not? Maybe, and I think that there's always room for improvement. But our role as council, and the way council laws and mayor and the way the council is run, is governance versus operational or management. And I think we do okay.
Okay, Wayne.
9.
So, oh, give it to Wayne. Keep it as a what's it, memorabilia. So what number would you like to re-choose?
All right, your real question. Do you agree? Oh, sorry. I'll put it up on the screen for you. Here it is. Do you agree that if there is a move to introduce volumetric charges for water for residents, it should only be introduced with the consent of the majority of voters?
Well, it actually comes with my where I stand on the three waters. And look, the reason they will introduce during the three waters, the first thing that will happen in the reforms will be volumetric charges, and you'll have no choice whatsoever. And the reason for it, I get that it's a conservation move, etc. But the main reason that they'll introduce volumetric, and that'll be across the whole country for three water reforms, will be generation of money. It will be simply a tool to add another tax to you, because what will happen very clearly in the country is, remember, you'll still be paying, councils will still be putting money in for the infrastructure. It'll get taken out by one of the four entities, and then they will decide, not you, not our community, not me or the councillors. They will then decide somewhere where the headquarters is based and the entity we're in is going to stretch from Gisborne to the top of the South Island of Nelson. Then they will decide where their investment is. So we may, as a city, may not have any investment in the Three Waters for a couple of years because the new entity will decide that it might be a bigger priority in Gisborne, Wellington City and Nelson. That will be the way that they will be able to generate the funds, the extra funds they'll need for the extra infrastructure they'll be doing. So the answer to me, yes, if we were doing it, it would be about consultation with the community, but I'm forewarning you, if Three Waters goes through, we'll have no choice. You'll have another tax on your hands.
Okay, Blair, what number would you like?
I'll go number 20, please.
Well, the ladies did go down to the low numbers, so the gents are getting up to the high numbers.
It's all an intricate dance that we do, isn't it? Yeah. Your question. What do you think will be the 3 biggest issues for councils in this triennium, 2022 to 2025?
Well, for our council, if we change mayor, it'll be getting used to a different voice. We've had Wayne for 21 years and he's had that pretty good voice for a long time now. The 3 biggest issues will be exactly like Wayne said them before. We've got the Three Waters rolling through. We've got what's my train of thought now? The local government reform, which made the papers this week with the amalgamation talks. What was the other one? RMA. Yeah, RMA will be definitely up in that those top 3. Thank you.
Okay, Wayne, what number would you like to pick?
12 has been taken. Aha. All right, now we get to the question that I put up on screen before an accident. Do you support the use of masks, especially indoors, as an important tool for keeping COVID at bay and others safe?
Well, public health tells us that and it's true, that it does, that indoors minimise the issues of transmitting the disease. But I think what's really more important to think about is that, and recently, just this morning, I saw some polls that were done over the last couple of weeks, that the community is actually changing its views on this. And the number of people that are actually using masks and who want to use masks is actually dropping away quite dramatically. And that's, if you're talking about communities, and what the last thing that health, the ministry, government want is that when you're losing the community, but it's very clear that the communities have had enough. But from the point of view, look, I don't have an issue from the point of view of people in close contact, being in indoors. They want to wear a mask, it's their choice, no problem at all. Be honest, be clear, there will be more pandemics. And we've prepared one way of doing it, but certainly from the point of view of good public health, it's clear that wearing masks in close contact and in closed environments does minimise the spread of the disease. Absolutely.
Okay, Helen.
Do we have 4?
We do not have 4.
Do we have 2?
2 is also gone. I can do you
Oh.
3.
Yeah, give me 3.
So, are you taking money or the box?
Oh, you got to do the invisible, right? I'll take the box. I don't want. Well, hang on. What's the money? How much money?
I'm not giving you
mine.
No, we used the term. You chose it, you brought it, now you must answer it.
All right, so how do you propose to foster a more positive public impression of more active modes of transport, such as cycling and walking?
How do I propose to foster more positive public impression of more active modes of transport, such as cycling and walking? Well, I suppose if you want to get more people cycling and walking, you need to make sure that it's safe. The walkways and the cycleways have got to be safe. There is a mood, if you look at overseas, they actually have gone away from shared pathways, whereas we're a little bit slow. New Zealand has often said that we're a little bit more reactive than proactive, and maybe us as a council, we should actually look at being a little bit more proactive. We've got an integrated transport strategy / plan that we're looking at, and we'll be looking at all modes of transport to make sure that they are safe and equitable. And I believe that we know that we need to start making plans for further ahead in the future, because when we know that to retrofit anything is going to cost you more money. If you do things in a silo, it's actually not feathering in. I'm really good at doing jigsaw puzzles, and I like to know what all the pieces are before I make a decision. I also want to make sure that I talk to the community to find out, so what is it that they want? Do they want safer walkways and cycleways, or do they want cheaper train fares, cheaper buses? Do they want the ability to do what they're doing in Tawa, where they're trialling a bus service which is based on an Uber app, you know, where you
On
actually
demand.
get someone to come and pick you up. So, yeah, I think it's important that we do safe modes of walking and cycling.
Okay, Angela.
11.
11 it is.
Te kao mā tahi.
So which question has Angela brought? Now has to answer.
The question is this: water is a precious and needed resource. Should councils make it compulsory for houses to install water tank storage for watering their garden and or offer tank storage at a discounted price?
Yes.
Specific question, specific answer. That's the way we do
God,
it.
that's very quick.
Well, I have been calling for this for some time. We also have a new councillor on board who's here tonight. Tracy Ultra has been asking for that. I live in rural Upper Hutt. I've grown up in rural Upper Hutt. When I studied, I worked on farms all around the country. I work for Rural Women New Zealand. I know how to store water and to use it. And if we looked at my own capacity or our own capacity at home, we've got 75,000 litres of water storage, which of course at the moment is bursting, but that will come in handy for summer, and I don't see why we can't do that in urban Upper Hutt.
And that's
Not
actually
75,000
yeah.
litres per house, mind
No,
you.
no, no. But actually, that's quite scary because I used to work for a petrol station, and that was not far off from our tank capacities. So that's quite a scary volume of water. At least it won't explode. So Blair.
I'll have number 30, please.
Number 30, the lucky last. And question 30, box 30 contains question 30, which is another booby one. You can defer the question to another candidate. So I'll give you that, and I'll ask you for another number.
Gee, that's quick.
27? All right.
It's all right. The Palmerston North electric show. Because that one we had 40 boxes, we had 4 booby questions, and he got 3 of them, including 2 of them were in a row. At least we can confirm tonight the booby questions have already made their way to candidates.
That's right. So the rest of you can relax now. All right. Here's a question. What is your immediate actionable plan for upgrading decaying and failing infrastructure such as sewage, water, and stabilization of hillsides for critical routes and suspending non-critical projects? There's a lot to that question.
Pass? I'm happy. Go, Blair.
Well, I mean, the immediate actionable plan for upgrading decaying and failing infrastructure we've got in place. It's called Three Waters. The government's now telling us that we're going to have an even larger entity in place, taking over from, like Wayne was saying, Gisborne down to Nelson, and they will be pretty much going to have to deal with any crumbling infrastructure that's under the ground or waterways. The hillsides and critical routes, we've been working on the critical routes with the earthquake-prone buildings already. We've got structures in place where there's more funding going in to help those that are on those critical routes to do their earthquake strengthening, and certainly it's a faster requirement for those people to get their engineering reports done and get them back to us and get their plans in place to get their buildings fixed up. I don't know if the non-critical project suspension would be something that I would hazard a guess, being a one member of a 10-person or 11-person committee. If there is a mood for suspending some of those projects, I dare say that'll come around in the meetings after, or the coming onto the long-term plan for the next 10 years. With new blood in the council, maybe there'll be some changes there, maybe not. But yeah, I think that will be a conversation that will need to be had. But I'm certainly not going to have it here and tell you what I think about pulling some of those projects out.
Okay, now here's something I love doing here is we can actually put the comments on the screen. So I just want to clarify to Crystal, who has mentioned this here, water from rivers are the regional council's responsibility, not the city council's. And that's the reason, if you take a look at Greater Wellington Regional Council, it covers a slight encumbrance of Tauranga District Council simply because of where the water is. So yeah, just to let you know, Wayne can't sit there and build a dam to stop the water going to Lower Hutt, and I'm pretty sure it will flood Upper Hutt if it does actually happen. So I thought that might be something that could actually be a little bit verified to our viewers at home. And back onto the next round, Wayne gets the next box choice.
23. Okay, tell us please, what are your views on challenging the new significant natural areas so property owners don't lose value on their biggest asset?
It's an issue for us. It's an issue for our community. It's been an issue for the whole region. Look, the issue is, of course, that many of the work that was done on those SNEs was simply a desktop study, and it created a lot of angst and a lot of issues. It's an issue for communities also to be discussing and talking clearly with central government. Some people obviously have got areas, particularly in the rural area, that are quite keen to have that and designated SNA, but certainly from the point of view in the urban sector, there were, when those desktop studies were done across, there were only small parts of sections, etc. So it created real issues. So it is an issue that we'll continue to have discussions with. Absolutely.
Okay, Blair.
Can I grab number 19?
Yes, you can. All right, here we go. Why do people find council matters so boring, and what will you do to change it?
Well, I don't know who those people are, because I don't find many of them very boring. By the time I've read the 1,000 pages that are in the documents that I need to read, and done a little bit of research sometimes that needs to be done, and asked a few people some of their opinions, I actually find it really interesting. And one of the reasons why I'm actually quite keen on staying on council is because I do find it interesting. I know, it sounds terrible. I don't know anybody who finds the matters boring. Surely there is topics that are mundane and a bit droll. But I mean, who wouldn't be excited about potholes and slipping areas and getting things done? I enjoy the chats I get from people coming into my work. They start off as a negative rant. By the time I've explained to them what we're doing, they normally are in a completely different state of mind. Understanding we've had a huge issue lately with the Ferguson Drive degradation. That would be the best way to word it. We've had plans in place for quite a number of years. Most people don't know that. And by the time that gets out into the public arena, I've had people apologise because they were really angry about the poor state of it and didn't realise what we were up to. So yeah, I don't really have any idea on how to change it other than being a more open book. Maybe our communication strategy, which the City Council's invoked in the last wee while, which has seemed to be working quite well. The change in the way of communicating, which is social media. We're on Facebook pages now with huge viewership. We're also quite open in our consultation now. We're working very hard at getting that clearer and more and out into the community more. So yeah, the boredom, you can be bored on your own. I'm not bored. Thanks.
Okay, next up, Helen.
17. Have we got 17?
No.
No. Oh, give me 24.
24.
Yes, please. Oh, I know it is. So that's nice.
Okay, here it is. What will you bring that is different from the current leadership? What would you have done if Wayne got this question?
I really don't know, and I think Wayne would be able to answer it. Well, there's nothing to change because I'm already there.
I don't know. It's been presumptuous. What would I change? What would I bring that would be different? Some of the things that I would bring is more transparency in the way that we make our decisions. I would be more engaging with the community because I think we do it retrospectively and the perception is that we actually are only ticking the box. And I think we need to remove that from the community. I think we need to be way more proactive when we go out and talk to them. I also think that at the beginning of any triennium, it is really important to have, and I've done this before, when I've been the new chair appointed at many, many committees, is that you need to have a strategy workshop where you look at the weaknesses of the people or the strengths of the people of the team that are around you. And you're only as good as the weakest link. So for me, I would be actually making sure that I know the people that are there supporting me, that I would be encouraging them, that I would be investing in them, because there is a perception that you're only there for 3 years, and yet I'm in my 4th year. Angela's in her 3rd. Blair is also there. So I think it's really important that you actually look at the people that are the voice, that you've chosen to be your voice. So one of the things that I will do is make sure that the investment is put in there, that we make really good decisions for the community, because that's actually what we're there for.
Okay, Angela, what's your box?
Oh, we got a few there. 21. I remember that day.
Okay, Angela, should councils be funding and organising community events?
Yes, and we do. And could we do a better job with some of that? Could we change the way we do things? I think that we have done that through this COVID pandemic, as that we put together a set of funds that the CE, that we delegated, that the CE could do to support those groups that needed extra support because of the effects of the pandemic. And I think that we have an event management team. I think that there probably is more. I mean, I was chair of the Community Grants Committee, and the problem that I had when I was the chair is still the same issue that we have now. We have $200,000 to give out, and people are asking for $500,000. So there's clearly a need, and so yes, if as a council we could possibly look at that. But should we be doing it? Absolutely, we should be.
Okay, and it's 8 o'clock now, and we're going to take a break, and then we'll be joined back for hard-hitting questions. Hey, and welcome back to It's in the Ballot. We hope you've had a bit of a good time for the break. We're a bit refreshed here and had some very constructive conversations with the audience and the candidates here. So now let's roll in for hard-hitting questions. Okay, gee, I know how to sit down there and pull off good conversations with the candidates while we're in a bit of a music break. So, hard-hitting question number one, as something that we have decided to make a theme about, It's in the Ballot for this year, and it's because everyone wants to know about where do the councillors stand on free waters reform, or in this case, mayoral candidates. But where do they all stand? So, as the question goes, what is your position on the free water system, and why have you come to that position? And let's start off with Helen.
Okay. I think one of the best things that's come out of the whole conversation around the three waters is Te Mata Arawai. And I think taking it away from the Ministry of Health and giving it its own entity as a regulator is a really good thing, because we all want really good, safe drinking water. The other thing is the voice of our community with regard to three waters has been that we don't believe that we have all the pieces of the puzzle to actually make an informed decision. I believe that this government is rushing it through too quickly, that we don't know what the economic regulator part of this is. Even what would I say? Even the submissions that have gone into central government are saying, we need to have the opportunity to talk to our community. We need to be able to consult on these things. We actually invested an awful lot of time and money in the investment of the pipes, the infrastructure, all of that. So if I was to become the mayor and I was voted in, my position would be that I do not support the three waters in the form that it is at the moment, because it's not transparent and it doesn't give the community everything that they need to do to make an informed decision. And that's why we joined Local for Democracy, because we sit with 31 other councils saying that there are other opportunities, other ways that should have been investigated. We've looked at what's happened in Melbourne, we've looked at what's happened in Tasmania, and all of those models have said that it took them a long time to work out the best process. We're trying to do that in no time at all, and it's not giving the ability for everyone to have a participatory part in the role of three waters.
Okay, next up, Wayne.
I think I made my point clear earlier on where I stand, and have been very clear about it. But look, to be quite frank, there has still not been a case made for the water reform. And the issue, look, no one has an issue for having a regulator. In fact, as Helen said, it's about making sure we have good, clean drinking water. So the regulator, but the issue that the government was trying to address was about making sure that the country has good, clean drinking water. The regulator would fix that. The regulator could quite easily would set parameters. Here's the standard. Everyone has X amount of three years to come to that standard. If not, there will be consequences. That's the way to fix it. The whole thing's been clouded. I mean, it started off through the Hawke's Bay issue in Havelock. Yes, a disaster, but now adding the three waters in, and it's become complicated because there's some talk now that stormwater may be excluded out of the three waters debate. It just shows you how the whole thing's now starting to unravel totally. The other issue I have clearly is that taking the infrastructure from communities that my parents and families have paid for is short of stealth. And the money that being compensated for communities. Our infrastructure here in Upper Hutt's worth about probably $500 to $600 million, and there's a compensation of about $30 to $40 million. And no say on where, how, and what is going to, what we can do with it. So to me, my position hasn't changed. Three Waters, it's not good for the community, it's not good for the country. And the other final issue I'll say about it, these four water entities are big, big beasts. They are going to start out with about the size of Fonterra each, and they're going to start with debt, because one of the ways that the government's giving the, if you like, I call it a bit of bribery money out to councils, those entities are borrowing it to start. So on the day that they open, they're already in debt to pay some of the bribery money.
Okay, Blair.
Ditto, pretty much. It's a hard question when you've already had two other people answer it, and we all sit in the same environment. I agree with Wayne. We needed regulation. They needed to put parameters around water. I've travelled around the country. You go to somebody's house and they say, "Don't drink the tap water." And you're like, "Huh? What do you mean? I've lived in Upper Hutt all my life. I've drunk tap water. I've drunk out of the hose water, and it's still better than half of the towns around that we've been to." Yep. So I'm drunk out of the river. The regulation needs to be done. I don't think the way that it's been thrust upon local bodies is transparent at all. The consultation or lack thereof was certainly an issue that we've had as a council. We look at the reforms and the shape of those big beasts that Wayne's talking about. They're scary. They will just decide that Havelock needs the money for the next 3 years. Upper Hutt won't get anything. We'll always be baby brother because we've done quite a good job. And I mean, contrary to a lot of narration around, the infrastructure in Upper Hutt has been well maintained. Like Wayne said, our families have been paying for it in their rates for ever. It's been a constant source of spending. Infrastructure under the ground, nobody sees it. It's not very sexy. It's a business as usual expense that's always top of the conversation with all four of us that sit at this forum now. I think that's definitely my position, and I'd carry that on until we see some more open and transparent conversations from central government coming out to local and to the bigger body that we've now joined. Thank you.
Okay, and next up, Angela.
Kia ora. So my position on the Three Waters reform is that the reform is needed. However, the form that reform is in, I'm really disappointed about. I'm disappointed because our communities have been very clear on their distaste for the reform. I think that there are two options that haven't been considered. The government was telling us that there's $45 billion spent annually on water infrastructure, and some councils, and I will say some councils because as Blair and others have said, Upper Hutt, we've actually looked after our water infrastructure and have had very good asset management plans for it. So the two options that I don't think have been considered, or we know haven't been considered, is to stay local. And if it's $45 billion worth of spending and the government thought that there should be $55 billion worth of spending, why was there not an option to actually give that $55 billion to the local people to be able to do it? Because when we looked after our own water, we didn't have 1,200 leaks this past summer and growing from the 1,000 leaks that we had the summer before. So I just think going back to local might be a good thing. But the other option is one big entity as they have in the UK and having localised groups, I guess, working that water. When you have a look at, because I've done quite a bit looking at the Health New Zealand reform, reforming of the health sector, they have put one big entity in, but they're doing a lot of work around having that local support, local facilities, local voices involved in doing that. And so I just think that the Three Waters reform is going to happen. However, there are two options that we haven't considered, and our community are constantly telling us that they want it local. And why have I come to that position? Because as I said before, we went to Wellington Water, and what a disaster that's been. And that's gone to a bigger entity, and I don't see how another entity that stretches from, where is it, Gisborne, all the way across to Nelson is actually going to give us the solutions that we need.
Okay, and by the sounds of that, it sounds like 3 different telephone calling areas. We consider do it for those who still have landlines. So, yeah. Okay,
Most
so
of rural New Zealand still have landlines, Sam.
yes, know one of them off by heart for a number in New Plymouth, and it's partly, you know, it's quite weird how I know that number off by heart because it's not from where I grew up. Okay, so now we're going to hit for hard-hitting question number 2. There are talks about amalgamating Hutt City Council and Upper Hutt City Council into one council. What is your position on amalgamation? And Angela, you get to have be the first person to have your say.
I don't like it one little bit because the community doesn't like it one little bit. When there was discussion about the super city amalgamation of Wellington, there was surveys done, and 75% of Upper Hutt residents said that they didn't want to amalgamate with Lower Hutt. So as much as we love our sisters and brothers down there, our community doesn't see any benefit to amalgamating. And for one, we don't want their debt. We don't want their Hutt City's debt spread over us, and clearly that's my position on amalgamation. Of course, if the community decided that we wanted to amalgamate and came in droves and told us at council that we should amalgamate, we might reconsider, but the community have already told us they're very clear, no.
Okay, Wayne.
I think I said earlier on at the start that it'll be back on the table. So, look, to be clear, it doesn't matter what leaders or council say. The fact of the matter is the community needs to be ready for this discussion because it will be on the table and it will be a major part of the future of local government in New Zealand, the reforms. You cannot talk about what functions local government are going to perform or not perform. And as I said earlier on, there will be major changes when they work through that. You can't have talking about what local government's going to do and isn't going to do without then going back to the structure. And there's a mood, I'm sure, around the country. If you look, I'll give you an example of what's happening with under this government, what they're looking at doing, is they're talking with the RMA reform. And under that RMA reform, they're talking that at the moment we have about 83 district plans across this country. They're talking about maybe minimising it down to about 14. Now, if you're a cynic, you would say 14 district plans, you probably only need 14 district councils. It won't get to that level, but certainly you can see what discussion will be on the table, and the Wellington region will be part of having to work their way through because amalgamation will be talked a big time in the next 12 months.
We certainly don't want it coming to Newtown either. Helen.
Thank you. I think if you read all of the newspapers and everything that is going out there, you would have seen 67 councils are too many. And if you read between the lines, you know that by stealth that they're going to actually start putting this on the table and expect us. So if that's the case, I'm always about a plan B, right? And plan B to me is not looking at Hutt City Council. We don't have anything in common with those people down there, even though they try and tell us that we're a valley floor, right? We're the upper part of that valley floor, they're the lower part, right? They're going to come to us when rising sea levels come and hit us, right? And I think we should start looking over the hill. We have got more in common with the Wairarapa, and we need to start having that conversation with them. And we need to, the biggest hurdle that we have is at Rimutaka Hill. Okay, so if we can get over that Rimutaka Hill, whether it's another tunnel, I don't know, but we need to start looking north, not south, because as my colleagues have said, there's too much debt down there and we don't want to borrow it. We've been prudent in everything that we've done, but it is going to come. It is going to be a conversation that happens. So we need to be smart and not just say, no, we don't want it. Okay, if it's going to be pushed on us, what do we want? Let's put our option on the table. And I think we should start looking north. Thank you.
It feels like you're talking a bit about like Tara in 1989 not wanting to be part of Porirua and ended up as part of Wellington.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what it did feel like what you're saying there. Blair.
Well, the good thing about going last is you can have a completely different opinion, but I don't. I actually think that if we're going into amalgamation talks, we need to make sure that we've got the strongest mayor that we can possibly have. I don't think that anybody sitting up here is the wrong person to have that argument. None of us will back down. We all hold Upper Hutt in our hearts. We've proved that with the last round of amalgamation talks. We all went along, beat our drums, and the community rallied behind us, told us like it was 75 or 73% of the people said we don't want amalgamation. So, I mean, I'll probably, just put the call out to Lower Hutt, give them a bit of a warning that if you want amalgamation, we'll amalgamate and we'll take over Lower Hutt. And we'll be Upper Hutt with Lower Hutt as our, subsidiary. So, yeah, thanks.
Now, before we hit to hard-hitting question number 3, is South Wairarapa District Council more of a pleasant appetite than, say, Hutt City Council? If there was an amalgamation, could you be considering going north instead?
Sam, I can't believe you're asking me that. They're the fruit bowl, okay? They've got good wine over there. I'm ex-Hawke's Bay. I like my bold reds. Why wouldn't I look north? Okay? It's getting closer to home for me, the Ruahine Ranges. Sorry, best place for us to go.
Okay, now for hard-hitting question number 3, could you please share your thoughts on COVID-19 vaccinations and whether you have any affiliation with Voice for Freedom, Freedom Rights Coalition, or any other organisation involved in the occupation of Parliament? And I can tell you, this was submitted from a local member of our community, and it's great that you got your microphone in your hand because on my list, you're number 1, Wayne.
Well, the answer's clear. No, no, no.
And Blair, you've got the number 2 on there.
Ditto. No, I mean, yeah, sorry.
Well, it's one that members of the community have asked. Well, one member of the community I've asked, and we've elevated to a hard-hitting question. Angela.
There's 2 parts to that question. So the second part of the question, whether you have any affiliation, no, I'm the same as everyone else. Could you please share your thoughts on the COVID-19 vaccination? I think that at the time, the Ministry of Health and those made the decision based on the information they had at that time. And I think when you're in a decision-making role, as we are, we make our decisions based on the information that we're given. And so I have to say, I wouldn't have wanted to have been in that position to make the calls that the government and the ministry made. And I think that, even though things have changed since then, I just think we have to hand it to them for the hard decisions they made on our behalf. They kept us safe.
Yeah, and Helen.
Okay, yeah. I have a 91-year-old dad. And I have an immune-compromised husband. So whenever I come to public events, I actually do quite regular RATS tests because it's not about me, it's about people that I love, keeping them safe. So the government said that to do that, we need to have our COVID jabs. I've got a pretty high tolerance for not getting the colds, the flus, or anything like that, but I do these things because of the people that I love. So COVID-19 is going to be here to stay, as Wayne has said. So if we need to do those flu-type jabs to keep COVID at bay, then yes, I will do that. I've been fortunate enough that I've never contracted, touch wood, COVID, and I hope that I continue to do that. With regard to Voices for Freedom, Freedom Rights Coalitions, or any of those other organisations, no. I'm an independent and I'm a voice for our community.
And I can go on a personal experience there. I had COVID through my house. We had to abandon a pilot. Well, we didn't abandon it. We postponed it 1 month. But because of these, and now not many people actually know, but this has actually got filters behind it which work equivalent to N95. I managed to actually avoid having COVID while in my house, at the same time ventilating the rooms. That's the one big thing, is ventilating fresh air through the house. And I think that's the reason why I did it. And during that same period of time, I was under a critical workers exemption. So I was allowed to go to work, but I was only allowed to go to work. So I do know having to do daily tests and having 8 of them sitting on my desk of saying negative, 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 negative. I know the whole things. And I mean, that's partly, you know, what we made to look at to how to make tonight possible with some of the safety checks we put in place. Now,
For that, I thank you.
now, we've had a question online because we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. Ray, you're the one who can access it. Both Eddie and I have lost it because we've refreshed our browsers, and it is to do with mouldy wards. Are you able to put it up on the screen? Okay. So the question we're asked is, can we ask everyone on the stand what are their plans to support mouldy and whether they support a mouldy ward? So who would like to start off?
The fact of the matter is, again, the community will have to have a discussion about it. It's government's made it very clear, so there will be a discussion, and Upper Hutt's discussion will take place early next year when we start looking at the new triennium, when we start looking at the composition of the council, and that'll begin. And one of the questions earlier on was about whether we stay at first past the post. That's another discussion that takes place, just the same as how with Maori wards is the best configuration. But it will be a community discussion, will be part of what the community has to go through next year.
Helen, you got.
I kind of figured you'd come to me next. So I'm Ngāti Tū Wharetoa, so I'm Māori, and I've been successfully elected for 4 terms. So with regard to that, I don't think that that's a privilege. I think that that's the community recognising that I actually have a shared voice. I agree with Wayne. We need the community to direct us as to where we land with regard to Māori wards. We've had that conversation and we've voted against it in previous times because it comes up in a cycle. As Wayne has said, it's a conversation that will be on the table next year. But like Wayne, you know, there needs to be a referendum like First Past the Post or STV, which is what Hutt City Council are doing this time round, if they want to change the voting. We are elected members that represent the community, and we need to remember that when we sit and make those decisions, it is under the auspice that we are their voice, not our voice.
Angela.
Kia ora. So there are 2 parts to that question, right? So one is around Māori wards, and the interesting thing, we don't have a ward system in Upper Hutt at all. And we've had the reason that we haven't voted for Māori wards in the past is because of that. However, I think there's an absolute opportunity to form a really good partnerships with our iwi mana whenua and tangata whenua, and that do that with consultation, but also asking them how, if we can't have a Māori ward, or how do we have a Māori ward when we don't have wards, you know, that whole discussion absolutely needs to be had. And the first part to the question?
Oh, and can you put it back up on the screen?
Partnership. I think the answer is partnership. That's what the Te Tiriti asks us, or implores in us to do, is to have a partnership with our Indigenous people. And I think that that's where we need to do some work around that. But our Upper Hutt's actually really interesting. We have Orongamai Marae, which is the community marae, and there are lots of different iwi affiliations there. And we have 3 other iwi that have connections to Upper Hutt. So it's a big conversation that we need to have.
Blair.
Well, everybody's spoken about that again already. So I'm going to speak about something slightly different. So we're elected at large in Upper Hutt, and we represent a very diverse group of people. We have a lot of Māoridom in our world, and over the time that I've been on council, I've seen a huge amount of change, adding te reo into our day-to-day life, naming of streets. We interact a lot with the Orongamai Marae. We work together with them on all sorts of projects around helping with feeding people. They've come to us for COVID grants. We're now in talks with Ngāti sorry, they've come along to a lot more of our conversations. We've opened the door to them at every chance we get. I would be very, very happy to see Maori people voted onto at large into our committees, into our council. And I'm pretty sure that one of the plans will be to add a voice or open the door to that voice being heard to any community, any committee that we have sitting around our council. While we're talking about the diversity of people in Upper Hutt, with our ageing population, with our physical challenges, even with COVID and the segregation of people in that area, we have a pretty broad representation across our council already. I mean, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. Wayne's aging. He's understanding. His family is older than mine, for example. I've got elderly people sitting in my world, special needs people that need looked after around their immunity and even just physical abilities, i.e., accessing our buildings and things like that. They've all become a very, very important part of our environment over the last 9 years that I've been on council, and it's opened my eyes a hell of a lot to that inclusiveness. We built a park. They put in a swing, and I asked the question, "What the heck is that swing?" It looks like a bed. And that swing is for a person who can't get out of a wheelchair but wants to have a swing. So they roll them into the swing and lock them into it, and they have a swing. I was amazed at our council, the amount of inclusiveness in that council design that came out of what was Jeff, an aging man who's it sounds a bit rough. But I mean, Jeff isn't a young fella, but that came out of his department, and shocked me. We had people on council at the time saying, "What about the special needs people in the park? Make sure that they've got a voice." And we went and spoke to the children in the skate park and made sure they had an input. So I mean, the amount of learnings that I've seen over that time, and this is just another step in that direction. We're adding Maoridom into our worlds. We've had a course added to our curriculum voluntarily to try and learn as much about speaking a bit of te reo and learning a mihi and these kind of things. Huge changes in my world. Being a car wrecker, there's not a lot of that in my world. But yeah, so that's my stance. Thanks.
Now, we have some more boxes there. We've got 17 minutes left. So can we get if we go through one each, can we get an answer within 1 minute per question? And Wayne, you get to be number one.
We'll go with number 14.
Box number 14, right here in front of me.
I haven't used this yet.
Yes, but you know what that meant to be.
All right. Back to these questions. What are your thoughts on Upper Hutt shifting to voting using single transferable vote instead of first past the post?
Well, again, it's the community that'll decide that, not the politicians, because if politicians make that decision, they'll get accused of saying, "Oh, you're feathering your own nest." But again, at the start of every triennium, that's the question that gets asked and discussed, and the community has the opportunity to feed back. To be fair, there's probably I think about half the council still using first past the post. But from a point of view as particularly the last, well, since I've been mayor, the feedback from the community is that they want to stick with first past the post. The Upper Hutt community has made it very clear.
Okay, Blair. What box number?
I'll go the lowest number.
Number 6. Your question is, should ratepayers pay for climate change mitigation? Why or why not?
Well, I dare say that's going to be a big conversation to have, but I mean, it's not something that I'm going to tell them that they have to do. We'll go out to consult. We'll ask the questions. Things are already going in to deal with a lot of the climate change issues that we're having in Upper Hutt. Flooding and damage around the place, council pays. We are paying to tidy it up. There isn't a fund coming out from central government, so we pretty much have to deal with it ourselves. The Silver Stream, Pinehaven stream that we've been working on with Greater Wellington Regional Council for the last wee while. In a way, that's a climate change mitigation that we've been working on collaboratively for quite a while already. Slips are a new thing that seems to be quite prolific this year. Maybe we can just blame the rain, but dare say it's going to be a climate change issue. Luckily, we don't have a foreshore. So I dare say Petone and Lower Hutt are going to have a heck of a lot more to pay for than we do, including probably buying up houses and clearing land, or seawalls or something. So I think indirectly it will happen. It's not something that I'm going to tell people to do, but it is something, unfortunately, we're going to have to continue doing.
Okay, Helen.
Give me 25.
25 for Helen. Okay, what are you doing to ensure young people's voices are heard in action to keep our city vibrant and growing?
I think we've already started that journey with the long-term plan where we actually encourage the high schools to come and talk to us about the 4 major issues that we had on the table. And the feedback that we got back from that was that the parents, it created a whole host of conversations around the dinner table, which was really exciting for us. Another initiative that we've done, and I need to say that it has been in collaboration with Wayne, is that we've had Maidstone Intermediate come on regular occasions and use the council chambers as the leaders, the young leaders, the up-and-coming leaders in our council chamber. And we've had the opportunity to actually sit there and watch how they debate and do these things. Now, that's happened on 4 or 5 occasions. Just recently, I had the privilege of going to Ferguson Intermediate and talk to 2 different syndicates there. So I believe that there is a vision for us around the table to actually engage. We appreciate that it's a long-term plan. We appreciate that it's our younger people that are coming through, particularly the intermediates, age 10, 11, put 10 years on top of that. We need to make sure that we talk to them, that when we give back the reins of the city, that they're happy to take it over, that we've done a good job and that we've listened to them, and the guardianship that they've installed in us, we've done a good job, and that they're happy to pick up the reins. So thank you.
Okay, and Angela, what box number do you want to pick?
15.
15. Last box of the evening. All right, here's your question. What leadership qualities do you have to cohesively bring together a group of random people? Some of these new councillors will have no experience at local authorities and are novices in this area. Not my words.
I have a farming background. Would it be like herding sheep?
Only if you've got an eye dog.
Oh yeah, I got one of those. He runs down to the girlfriends for play dates, so I can't use him. Anyway, so what leadership qualities do I have to cohesively bring together a group of random people? I have worked in several different workplaces, and I have gathered some really, well, I think strong, resilient and empowering practices. What I would be doing with, especially with new councillors, is that I think that getting everybody into a room or everybody somehow just working with each other around what our strengths and weaknesses are, also about what we might want to do in the 3 years, because it's 3 years between elections, what we want to achieve in that time, and therefore working together with those strengths and weaknesses, with new people on board being buddied or supported by those that have been on for some time, and also being involved in the various courses and programs and support mechanisms that are out there in the local government and within council staff. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not actually been that long, really. Blair and I are the youngest serving members here, and it's not really been that long, has it? Since we were novices. And stop laughing, Tracy, you're even newer. And so, yeah, we kind of know what it's like. And I think that supporting each other and working together, using our strengths, weaknesses, and different viewpoints, and we can just carry on in doing far better with our engagement with the community and listening and being the voices of the people that elect us.
Okay, now let's get for closing statements, your final statement to our lovely audience at home. And I'm going to do my list here in the reverse number because otherwise Wayne's going to be at number 1. So we're going to go with Blair.
I don't really know what to say on a final closing statement other than thanks for having us. It's been an interesting evening with some challenging and interesting questions. It's a shame I didn't get to do some of the ones I was quite interested in answering.
You can answer those in your own time on your own Facebook lives and that. We're not stopping
I've got
you.
copies of those questions now, so thank you. Growing up here, all I've ever done is loved living here. You know, I've played here, I've been mischief here, I've grown up here, I've gone through school here. I started on school council as soon as I possibly could. They wouldn't let me get on when I was about 13. I think I got to wait till I was 14 and got in the first 15 rugby team before I got on bloody school council. And ever since then, I've had an opinion about everything. I've also had 2 school teachers that have taught me to listen and learn, absorb as much as I possibly can. Now, coming from the pretty low form of education that I've had, didn't want to stay in school. I wanted to go out and experience the world. I think I've done that, and I want to give back. I want to spend a bit of energy, which I'm doing. Doing this kind of work, I enjoy it. I love a challenge. Get stuck in, and I'm that committed that if I did get elected as mayor, I'd pretty much sell up my business, change my whole life, and bury myself in this. I've done it with council. I couldn't read 1,000 pages if you tried to pay me to do it when I first started this journey. Now it's just normal. It's become very, very normal. It's become normal to argue against things that I used to believe were just a basic right. Now we've got to fight for everything that we get. Central government's handed us down things like making decisions on whether or not we do Easter trading, TPP. Huge things have come out of this, which I had no idea. People started reading the 6,000-page document, which was the TPP. It wasn't my decision to make. It was central government, so I left it to them. I'm interested in Upper Hutt. I want to keep Upper Hutt the way I've remembered it for my life, for my children and their children. Make sure there's spaces for them to play. Our strap lines are work, live and play. I've made the most of play. I love people, so I spend most of my time talking to people. I don't know what I'd do if I couldn't talk to people. I certainly can't work alone. I'd go mad talking to myself. Again, thanks very much for having us. It's pretty easy to remember. Vote Blair for mayor, rhymes. Thank you.
Okay, Angela.
Kia ora. I just wanted to say that I didn't start with this, and it's a little weird, I guess, to close with it, but I am, as Blair was saying, I'm Upper Hutt born and bred. The really interesting thing about connections in communities like this is the fact that Blair's father taught me at college. He was, well, I don't know if he taught me at all, really, but anyway, he was my sixth form teacher, and thank you, Tony, and that is what I would just wanted to say. For me, it's about people and about community and how we grew up in the community. We helped each other do things. So yes, I have a farming background. In the summertime, we got together and everybody helped each other do the hay. So, you know, one farmer had the mower, another farmer had the rake, another farmer had the baler, and everybody else had trucks. Then they got the rugby club used to come and help out, you know, gather the hay in. And we got around and we sat around together at the end of the day over kai and drink, and there was never any abuse and of alcohol, I just might add that. We had a great time supporting each other, and actually I think that's what we need in Upper Hutt. We need to build that community, and I want to be able to, as Mayor, inspire and empower our people to look after each other, to be safe, and to have great health and well-being, to look and take Upper Hutt to that next level. Kia ora, vote Angela McLeod for Mayor.
And ironically, going in the reverse order, it's now Helen.
Okay. I want to say that I'm asking for your vote to be the mayor because of the skill set that I bring. I have a huge amount of knowledge around compliance, what is needed to be a vibrant city that has good business, economic development, the support of those, because if you want a circular economy and a resilient economy, then you need to start somewhere. And it's about, we know that where people work, they live, they play. But, you know, I don't want to promise you a vision that is my vision. I want to tell you that we already have a vision, and the vision is that we have outstanding outdoor pursuits, that we are the playground of Wellington, and that people like to live, work and play here. Now, when we are elected, that is the vision that we all buy into, no matter what an elected person who is on an election campaign will tell you, because that's the vision that's been consulted on, and that's the vision that we've agreed to. It was a vision that brought me here to Upper Hutt, and out of that, there are 4 POs that actually are around social well-being, the environment, economic. And if we do those things right, we will have the best community that we can. And that is the promise that we make, because they're in all our documents. And I will ensure that every piece of policy, every decision we make a reference back to those things, because that's the promise that we made to you. Like I said, not born and bred here, but we chose this place. And that means a lot. We brought up our family here. You will see me watching our grandsons play ripper rugby or softball or football or cricket out on the pits. I'm out there because I'm accessible. People like to come and talk to me, and I want to continue that. I have the skill set to actually lead us into the challenges that we are going to face coming up. And it's not only about the 3 waters, because I've already told you my views, but the RMA is something that's coming at us hard and fast. These legislation requirements that are coming that we have no control of, we need to be able to articulate that to our community, and I'm good at telling the story in a way that I bring everybody along with us, because that's what it's about. So for me, it's about breaking barriers and building our future together. And that's what I stand for with the vision that we've adopted in our city. Thank you. Vote for me to be your mayor.
Okay, and Wayne.
Well, first of all, thank you. Well, just you hear a bit about change tonight, but let me just share some facts. I said to you earlier on about the environment as under my leadership. It's about creating an environment so people have confidence to come and live here or invest here or develop here. And if you look at some of the major developments that have occurred over the last 3 years under my leadership, that's putting Upper Hutt at the forefront of this region. We're talking about Lane Street film shows, you're talking about the international campus, you're talking about Brewtown, you're talking about the Wallaceville development, you're talking about major developments. And let me share you just some facts. The GDP growth in Upper Hutt to the end of June 2022 grew 4.1%. Many parts of the country it went backwards. There's been a 5.7% increase in consumer spending in the city. Upper Hutt expenditure, an annual total of $28 million, has, as I said, has grown 7.7%. Employment, and that's about those big projects I talked about, employment in Upper Hutt is up 4.2% from June the previous year. and building consents remain strong, with residential and non-residential consents up over 50% to the year prior. We need to continue that momentum, and those facts are not about a city who wants change. That's a city that wants to continue under this leadership that I've given the city to continue to go forward. And why I may have had this during the thing. Under my leadership, I won't dodge the questions.
Oh, I definitely love that, and keep the card as a souvenir. You know, keep the card as a souvenir. Okay, so well, we're at the end of the night. We're going slightly into overtime. I'd like to thank Ben Wiley Van Erd, who has come all the way up here to ask the questions from the question boxes. Thank you for doing that.
Absolute pleasure. Happy to help out.
I'd like to thank Wayne Guppy, Hellen Swales, is that his name? Yep. Angela McLeod and Blair Griffiths. Yep. Yeah, get it right, for participating tonight on the show and coming here straight after a council meeting. That shows dedication. And I'm very pleased that you all came here, and thank you for making the show a success tonight. I'd also like to thank, like I normally do, I'd like to thank Stacey, Ray, and Eddie, who have been on set tonight. I also like to thank Logan from Awaken Church, who has helped us set up the sound, and thank you for providing the projector background behind me. That wasn't part of our normal set layout, and we've had, so, you know, I'm happy with the little bits we've changed there. And thank you, Stacey, for showing it across there. And I'd also like to thank Paul, who is on his way up, being the taxi driver from Wellington to get Stacey and Ray home, considering, if anyone knows there, my APV only has one seat. So one seat other than the driver's seat. Tomorrow's show is the Parapara Awards show. If you want to come, join us at the Kapiti Impact Hub in Tongariro Street, also known as the Old St Patrick's School. We've also got this Friday, we've got the Eastern Ward of Hutt City Council, which is at Nainai College, 910 High Street. And if you want to get us with our first Wellington City Council show, we've got the Wharangi Onslow Western Ward, and that's at Te Kura Otari School in Wilton. And for our Upper Hutt followers, we will be doing a double debate, because there's so many council candidates standing through there. We believe, to give them the right justice, they need two shows. It will be here at Awaken Church on Monday, September the 5th. And you won't have me behind the host desk here. Stacey will be presenting that show. And on the Tuesday, I'll be back behind the host desk and in the same venue, which is Tuesday the 6th of September, in the same venue here. So thank you for joining us.
Sam, before you close off, what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually acknowledge Sam for doing this. It's in the ballot, and I need to do a shout out for him. He's doing all of this through his own funding, and I think there should be some crowdsourcing here. And I think that there should be an opportunity that people can actually pay into his bank account, because it's really important that this year and next year that we get out to the communities how important it is to vote, but even more so, how important it is to know the people that are putting their hand up to be your voice around the table. So Sam, I need you to put an account up there somewhere that people can see and actually show their appreciation for what you're doing, because it is a really important step if we want to get more people around and put their vote in the ballot box. Thank you.
On that topic, Helen, we do have on our website the bank account number that you can put it in. Please do it by direct credit, because Kiwi Bank doesn't allow cash deposits, because unless it's done by a signature authority. For those who are here, I do have my Coffee Carts FPOS machine, if that is something they want to do it. Plus, for those online, on Eventbrite, which is our ticketing software we use to get, mainly it's for free tickets, but we also do where you can sponsor some money towards the show and have your question reserved for one of the boxes. For our mayoral shows, it's $100, but for our council ward shows, it's $50 if you want to do that and help fund the show. You can also put in a donation of whatever value you want on Eventbrite, and you can tag it in with any show. So that is on there. The other option is put it into our bank account, which the bank account number is 38 for Kiwi Bank, branch number 9023, bank account number 0800 167, and the suffix is 00. So if you do want to do that, and for us, for matter of clarity, we have 2 signatures on the checkbooks, even that we don't do checkbooks anymore. So you'd be definitely going through through an accountable process in that particular part, because that's what some people do, sit there and take care of about that. Thank you for the many comments that have been put online tonight. I know we haven't paired all of them on there. We did deviate with the multi-ward question because it was a good one. We had time tonight. Thank you for doing that, because I know that wasn't in the set of questions we sent. That is something we do here, is we want intelligent answers. So we send the candidates their questions first, but they still don't know what question they're going to be answering, because you've still got to pick the right box. So for those who want to join us tomorrow in Paraparaumu Ward, where we can see who's standing for the Paraparaumu Ward of the Kapiti Coast District Council, join us back tomorrow at 7 p.m. in the same places on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Good night.